Medieval TV shows have been increasing in popularity, especially over the past decade or so. But medieval inspired TV shows have been getting released since the inception of the industry. And in this video, I'll be giving you my recommendations of the top 50 medieval TV shows ever created. But before we begin, don't forget, if you love anything to do with historical movies and historical TV shows, then subscribe to my channel, History Spark. At number 50, it is Camelot, a historical fantasy show based on the legend of King Arthur and Merlin. And the show starts in the late 5th century Britain with Merlin instilling Arthur on the throne of Camelot, and this leads his half-sister Morgana to start her own evil, ambitious plans to overtake the throne from Arthur. This show unfortunately got cut after just one season, but is still a great first season. The story was interesting and the acting was pretty decent, with Eva Green and Joseph Fiennes being the two standout performances for me. So if you're looking for a unique spin on the King Arthur story and don't mind an incomplete tale, then you might enjoy Camelot, the medieval fantasy TV show. At number 49, it is World Without End, an 8-part miniseries based on Ken Follett's best-selling novel, and this series is set in the 14th century in England, where a fictional town is grappling with the Black Death, the 100 Years' War, and ruthless church politics, while also ensuring that they have enough money left over to eat. Acting in this series is pretty good, and the series is visually stunning, which one would expect considering that The World Without End was executively produced by Ridley Scott. The main criticism for this show appears to be that it does not follow the novel it is based on very well at all. But since I've never read the World Without End book, I found this series to be pretty enjoyable, and I am sure most viewers of this channel will enjoy it as well. At number 48, it is Kuruluş Osman, an epic Turkish historical drama following Osman Bey, the founder of the Ottoman Empire, as he battles Byzantine forces, fights against Mongol influence, as well as internal court politics to forge a sovereign state from a small tribe. This series is a sequel to the massively popular historical drama Resurrection et Tragul, but it can be watched as a standalone show as well. So if you have any sort of interest in Turkish history, then be sure to check out Kuruluş Osman. At number 47, it is The Decameron, a dark comedy historical series which follows a group of Italian nobles and their servants who flee a plague-ravaged Florence in 1348 to wait out the Black Death at a countryside villa, only to find out that their new lives quickly devolve into scheming, class warfare, and deadly chaos. Best thing about The Decameron is that the show does not take itself too seriously, and it finds many unique ways to bring some excellent comedic moments throughout the show. At number 46, it is The Bastard Executioner, a historical drama created by Sons of Anarchy director Kurt Sutter. And this medieval show is set in 14th century Wales, and it follows a knight named Wilkin Brattle who assumes the identity of an executioner to infiltrate and exact revenge on the English lord who massacred his family. The series has impressive costume design, set pieces, and choreography, which creates a genuinely believable medieval world, and the premise of the story is very interesting as well. But The Bastard Executioner unfortunately did get cancelled after just one season, which does mean we have an incomplete series here. But if you're looking for a unique show that deserved at least a second season to iron out the flaws from the first, then The Bastard Executioner is the show for you. At number 45, it is The Princess Wei Young, a Chinese TV series based around a fictional portrayal of Empress Dowager Feng and her story of revenge against those who betrayed her and ruined her kingdom after a failed attempt on her life. And this series does a fantastic job of bringing this ancient Chinese time period to life on the small screen, thanks to the amazing work done by the two leads of the show. This series has amazing acting, a great plot, and it also does a great job of highlighting the complex court politics in Chinese monastic circles. At number 44, it is Leonardo, a historical drama based around the life of Leonardo da Vinci and the various influences on his life that helped him produce his most famous works and inspire him to create the blueprints for his many inventions. And if you can put the huge number of historical inaccuracies to the side, you will find a show here that is engaging, filled with lots of plot twists, and has very interesting characters as well. So if people want a more simplified look at the life of Leonardo da Vinci, then Leonardo is my recommendation for you. At number 43, it is Jodha Akbar, a lavish Indian historical drama which depicts the political marriage between Rajput princess Jodhabai and the Mughal Emperor Akbar, and how their turbulent marriage slowly transforms into a profound love story that shapes Akbar's rule and his religious outlooks. This series has amazing set pieces, beautiful costume design, and the performances by the two leads are very spectacular as well. But Jodha Akbar can be a little bit of a boring show at times, as there are hardly any action or battle sequences in the series. But if you have any sort of interest in Mughal history, then you might want to check out Jodha Akbar whenever you get a chance. At number 42, it is The Winter King, a medieval fantasy TV series based on the Warlord Chronicles trilogy by Bernard Cornwell, the author of the Last Kingdom TV show and books. And this TV show focuses on King Arthur and his knights, as well as other mythical figures such as Merlin and also the Legend of Excalibur. And the acting in this show was pretty decent, and the set pieces and costume design was very well done as well. But the plot and the story here was just not very interesting, and the pacing was pretty atrocious as well. But if you have an ITVX subscription and don't mind watching a show that got cancelled after just 1 year, then The Winter King might be a good medieval fantasy adventure for you to check out. At number 41, it is Isabel, a Spanish historical drama chronicling the remarkable rise of Isabel I of Castile, from her politically precarious childhood to her marriage to Ferdinand of Aragon and her eventual reign as one of Europe's most important monarchs. And the primary highlight for me of this series is the brilliant acting by Michelle Jenner as Isabella. And the series is also surprisingly historically accurate, especially in the first few seasons. But unfortunately though, the last season of Isabel is not as good as its predecessors, meaning the series does end on a bit of a low note. But overall, if you want an authentic look into medieval Spain, then you should check out Isabel. At number 40, it is Blackadder, a British sitcom series which stars Mr. Bean himself in various historical settings ranging from 1485 to 1917. This series focuses on a fictional character named Edmund Blackadder in each episode, and he would become the descendant of the Edmund Blackadder from the previous episode, allowing him a plausible reason to be involved in centuries worth of historical events. Rowan Atkinson is a comical genius, and Blackadder displays his wit in a non-stop comedic manner, and this show makes great use of various medieval and historical tropes to keep the viewer engaged from beginning to end. At number 38, it is Heirs to the Land, a medieval historical drama set in 14th century Barcelona, which follows the resourceful Hugo Lohr as he rises from poverty to eventually become a successful winemaker. Heirs to the Land is unique as it is perhaps the only show I have seen that explores Jewish life during the Spanish persecutions, and this series does a great job of bringing something new to the genre with its multi-generational spanning narrative. So if you can ignore some of the poor time jumps within the series, you will find a mini-series here that will display medieval Spain to you like you've never seen it before. At number 37, it is the story of Yangtze Palace, a historical Chinese series which takes place during the reign of Qianlong. And this series focuses on a palace maid who is able to work her way into the palace so she can secretly start investigating the truth into the death of her older sister. This amazing TV show is the winner of 29 awards, including the award for Best Television Series, Best Lead Actor, and Best Supporting Actor in a Chinese-American TV show. At number 36 on this list, it is The Spanish Princess, a sequel to the popular White Queen and White Princess miniseries. And this series focuses primarily on the story of Catherine of Aragon, and it does a decent enough job of depicting her life, but it does stumble at a lot of points, and it is never truly an engaging show. But that doesn't mean it's all bad, because there's a lot to like here, as the series has some interesting characters, a decent enough overall plot, and some great production design. At number 34, it is Robin of Sherwood, which is widely regarded as the best depiction of Robin Hood ever created on the small screen. And this show has the classic visual appeal of the 80s and some of the most effective use of background music and musical scores I've seen in a medieval TV show. This series is really slow at times and does struggle with pacing, and the script is pretty weak as well. But if you want a fantastic depiction of the legend of Robin Hood, then Robin of Sherwood is the medieval show for you. At number 33 is The Sleuth of Ming Dynasty, a Chinese historical mystery drama produced by Jackie Chan, which is set in 15th century Beijing. And this series follows a trio comprising of a magistrate, a guardsman, and a cunning imperial eunuch as they unravel various mysteries within the series such as murders, government corruptions, and a bloody coup. The series' greatest strength lies in the bromance between the three leads and seeing how their contrasting personalities and hilarious actions aid them in solving mysteries in medieval China. And as one would expect by a show created by Jackie Chan, the fight sequences and martial arts on display here is just brilliant. But the actual mysteries themselves are not always that interesting. But if you want a unique spin on Chinese history, then you will definitely love The Sleuth of Ming Dynasty. At number 32, it is Cathedral of the Sea, an 8-part miniseries which follows a farmer named Bernat and his son Arnis as they struggle to remove themselves from the clutches of poverty and seek refuge from the evil feudal lords of their village. The show has 2 parts. The first is the journey of a poor, farming father trying to protect and shelter his son, and the second depicts the story of an elder Arnau growing up and having desire to gain wealth and become rich. Cathedral of the Sea is a fascinating show with a strong plot, thrilling plot twists, especially in the second half of the series, and the acting here is serviceable, but no one really does a fantastic job in my opinion. But if you're looking for a show with a strong storyline and some interesting characters set in medieval Spain, then you'll definitely enjoy Cathedral of the Sea. And number 31 is Rise of Empires Ottoman Mehmed vs Dracula, which is season 2 of the amazing Rise of Empires television series, but this series can also be watched as a standalone show as well. And this series focuses particularly on Mehmed's relationship with Vlad Dracula and his brother Radu, from their childhood to their eventual clash as rulers of their own nations. This TV series is engaging, brutal, and very well acted, but the story here is just not as well told as the original, and the series does shy away a little bit from highlighting the faults of Mehmed to a degree. But if you want a really unique and brutal medieval historical drama, then Rise of Empires Ottoman Mehmed vs Dracula is my recommendation for you. At number 30, it is Merlin, a medieval fantasy TV show based around the legend of King Arthur with a unique spin, where we get to see the primary characters of the legend in their teenage years rather than the older depictions we are used to. And the series' primary focus is on a teenage Merlin who has to guide and build a bond with Arthur to help him gain the traits necessary to one day become a great king, but he has to do all of this without using magic. The plot of the show is great across all 5 seasons, and the series does a great job of building the characters throughout each of the seasons, and you really see some genuine growth and development. At number 29, it is The White Princess, which is a mini-series focusing on Elizabeth of York as she is forced into a political marriage with the newly crowned Henry VII after the War of the Roses concludes. And she finds herself caught between loyalty to her York roots and her precarious life as a Tudor queen. The series has decent enough acting by the entire cast, and most of the characters are very grey, which makes them feel very real and believable. But just like its predecessor, this series does have a lot of historical inaccuracies, and it does start off a little bit slow. But if you stick with it, I am sure The White Princess is a show that most viewers of this channel will really enjoy. At number 28, it is Age of Samurai Battle for Japan, a docu-series which covers one of Japan's most brutal and deadliest eras, covering the tail end of the Sengoku period from 1551 to 1616. And this docu-series tells the story of 3 powerful daimyos from Japan's history: Oda Nobunaga, Toyotomi Hideyoshi, and Tokugawa Ieyasu, each of whom played a significant role in unifying Japan and bringing an end to feudal rule within the country. And this series grips you right away by throwing you straight into the middle of a civil war, and it is a very brutal and action heavy series. But this series does also have some of the worst narration and talking head that I have ever seen in any sort of documentary or docu-series. So if you're looking for a historically inaccurate but still visually engaging Netflix documentary series, then check out Age of Samurai Battle for Japan. At number 27, it is Vikings Valhalla, a sequel to the hit historical TV show Vikings, with this series being set 100 years after the original show's end. Vikings Valhalla depicts the legendary adventure of Viking explorer Leif Erikson, his sister Freydis, and the ambitious Nordic prince Hild Hardrada. And I have to say straight off the bat that Vikings Valhalla is nowhere near as good as its predecessor, but the series still has great production value alongside excellent costume design and set pieces, and I have to admit this show is just visually stunning, but the acting and the story itself does leave a lot to be desired. So I do think this show will really appeal to die-hard fans of the Vikings TV show, but will probably not be enjoyable to casual viewers. And number 26 is Da Vinci's Demons, a historical fantasy show which depicts a fictionalized portrayal of Leonardo da Vinci as an eccentric genius who's able to imagine and invent things far beyond the understandings of human and society for the time. And this show makes it clear from the very first episode that Da Vinci's Demons will focus more on fantasy rather than history, as it does not try to be historically accurate at all. And this series does have a very interesting story which is quite unique, some brilliant acting, and some great production design as well. And number 25 is the original Shogun TV series that got released in 1980, and this was the first interpretation of James Clavell's 1975 novel. And to be honest, this show holds up really well even by today's standards. This is quite a simple and not very visually appealing version of Shogun, but it's got impeccable acting, great battle scenes, and some engaging and thrilling plot devices that audiences will really enjoy. So if you're okay with limitations of 1980s technology, but want an excellent samurai based TV show, then the original 1980 Shogun historical TV series is a great recommendation for you. At number 24 is Monty Python's Flying Circus, a classic medieval show which features a 6-man comedy group covering a range of historical events across 4 seasons and 45 episodes. The plot lines here are surprisingly good, the acting is brilliant, and all the characters are lovable and easily relatable as well. So if you want to learn more about medieval history but in a comedic manner, then you will definitely enjoy Monty Python's Flying Circus. At number 23, we have another comedic show, which is Norsemen, which follows a group of Vikings living in the village of Norheim during the year 790, and this series depicts the day-to-day events and struggles of Viking life in a humorous and comedic way. This show has actually won the Gold Rotten Award in 2017 for Best Comedy Show, and The Norsemen is definitely a show that will keep you amused and entertained for the duration of each episode, as it puts a fresh new spin on Viking culture and the way fans view Viking society in general. At number 22, it is Vinland Saga, the first ever historical manga recommendation on this channel. And this series will be really enjoyable to anyone looking to explore the world of the Vikings, but in a totally unique and different way. Vinland Saga tells a fictionalized and embellished tale of real-life Viking explorer Thorfinn Karlstefni, who is forced to leave his homeland and explore the seas and new lands in order to exact his revenge against someone that has caused him great hurt and grief. Vinland Saga has an amazing plot, great characters, and a good range of historical figures depicted throughout the show. So if you enjoy anime shows, or not, I do think all fans of Vikings TV shows will really enjoy Vinland Saga, and if you have a Netflix subscription, why not give it a try? At number 20, it is The White Queen, an amazing TV miniseries which focuses on the story of 3 influential women during the War of the Roses period. Elizabeth Woodville, Margaret Beaufort, and Anne Neville, all of whom are influential women and are trying their best to amass power, wealth, and influence for their families. The White Queen does a great job of magnificently recreating the War of the Roses period and the tension between the House of York and the House of Lancaster. And aside from a very interesting plot, the show benefits from great acting by a strong cast as well as excellent costume design and set pieces. But if you can get past the first 3 episodes, then I'm pretty sure The White Queen is definitely a medieval TV show that most viewers of this channel will really enjoy. At number 19, it is the Joan of Arc TV miniseries, which depicts the story of this fierce warrior maiden from her birth in 1412 until her death in 1431. And her story takes place during the 100 Years' War, a time period in history when women were given very little power and authority, but Joan of Arc is able to inspire and lead troops into battle based on her religious zeal and her own sense of divinity. And this Joan of Arc miniseries is great as it really does engross the viewer from beginning to end, which is due in large part to the excellent performance by Lily Sobieski and Peter O'Toole, who actually won an award for Best Supporting Actor. The story can be a little bit difficult to follow at times, but if you want a general understanding on the life and death of Joan of Arc, then this miniseries is one that you should definitely be checking out. The 18th spot on this list goes to Medici, a show based around the House of Medici, a powerful Italian family who had considerable wealth and societal influence during the Italian Renaissance. And Medici has a very interesting and unique plot with lots of plot twists, and the character development throughout the series is really believable and fascinating to watch if you can ignore some of the pacing issues and a little bit wooden acting. And I think Medici is a TV show that any viewer of this channel will really enjoy. And number 17 is The Tudors, a historical TV show which follows the life of King Henry and his turbulent reign, filled with lots of romantic, political and religious intrigues, and of course his very controversial relationship with his many wives. And The Tudors is a great show for anyone even slightly interested in the history of the 16th century in England, as this is a slower paced show based around the various day-to-day routines of a monarch, so it is pretty easy to follow, and it emphasizes Henry's many love affairs in greater detail than many people would have originally expected. At number 16, it is Shardley, a medieval TV show which depicts a fascinating murder mystery plot which hooks you in right from the start. And this series has some great acting by the two primary leads of the show, but the same cannot be said for the secondary characters of the show, which are pretty poorly developed overall. But if you're in the mood for a historical TV show which steers away from big battles and action scenes and focuses more on telling a tight-knit story and a suspenseful murder mystery, then Shardlake on Disney Plus is a great medieval TV show for you. At number 15, it is King and Conqueror, a medieval TV series which focuses on the events leading up to the epic Battle of Hastings in 1066, and the story is told through the perspective of William the Conqueror and Harold Godwinson. And the storyline here is pretty interesting, if largely historically inaccurate, and the acting by James Norton and Nicolaj Coster-Waldau is spectacular. But the pacing for King and Conqueror is very poor, and the show feels very rushed at times. Also, some of the deaths in this show are just very badly done as well. But if you want a medieval TV show with amazing battle scenes, strong acting, and a decent enough storyline, then King and Conqueror on BBC iPlayer is a great recommendation for you. At number 14 is the most unique entry on this list, and that's Kingdom, a South Korean historical drama which is set in the medieval Joseon era timeline. And this series explores the story of a crown prince as he sets out to investigate the source of a mysterious plague that begins to ravage his country. And this series has amazing acting, an original storyline with lots of plot twists, and a perfect mix of horror, suspense, fight scenes, and political intrigue. At number 13, it is Nightfall, a medieval TV series depicting the downfall of the Knights Templar at the hands of King Philip IV of France during the 1300s. And this series is depicted mainly through the viewpoint of the primary character, a fictional Knights Templar named Landy de Lozin. And he's a fascinating central character as he is a very grey individual, and he struggles to honor his vows as a Knights Templar. And the first season of this show is actually not that great, but the second season is pretty much a spectacular show on all fronts, and it actually becomes quite historically accurate as well. So if you can ignore a medieval TV show with a pretty poor first season but an excellent second season, then Nightfall is my recommendation for you. At number 12, we have the award-winning miniseries Wolf Hall, which gives a fictional biography on Thomas Cromwell and shows his trajectory from being a poor working-class member of society to becoming the right-hand man of King Henry VIII. And as you would expect from an award-winning TV show, the storyline and acting here is top tier. Although this is a fictional portrayal, most of the major events that occur are true, as Thomas Cromwell was a key figure during the reign of King Henry VIII. And this show does a great job of bringing his contributions to life. At number 11, it is Marco Polo, a Netflix original series which depicts the exploits of Marco Polo during his time at the court of Kublai Khan in Mongolia. And this show is perhaps one of the most expensive historical shows ever created, and this high budget is evident in the production quality of the show, with the set pieces, costume design, and battle scenes being of the highest quality I've ever seen. But what is not of the highest quality though is the pacing of the show, and it really does stumble at many points, especially early on in the first season. But midway through, Marco Polo does find its footing and it transforms into a thrilling historical medieval adventure. At number 10, it is Resurrection Etragul, which depicts the rise of Etragul, the son of a Bey in the Kai tribe, to his eventual role in becoming a legendary figure whose actions would help shape the founding of the Ottoman Empire. And this series is a very slow burn with over 500 episodes across all its seasons, so the story is told in a really slow but steady manner, which really helps you form strong emotional bonds with all the characters in the show. And aside from amazing acting, there's actually a very interesting storyline with never-ending plot twists and obstacles for the main characters to overcome. So if you don't mind a very slow paced Turkish drama, then I really do think Resurrection Ertugrul is one of the best and most unique medieval shows that Western audiences can probably watch. At number 9, it is My Country A New Age, a South Korean historical drama taking place at the tail end of the Goryeo dynasty and at the beginning of the Joseon dynasty, and the story is focused around a set of 3 friends from different walks of life who have to make great sacrifices to protect their country and the ones they love. And there's a second storyline focusing on more historical aspects of the show, where Yi Bang-won is trying to solidify his position and become legitimized as the heir to the Joseon Empire by any means necessary. And this series was the first South Korean TV show I'd ever seen, and I've found the storyline, character development, and battle scenes to be totally different from the usual Western historical series I had seen. So if you can overlook the massive amount of wounds and damage characters take within the series, and how unrealistic it can be at times, I really do think that My Country A New Age is a show that will appeal to all viewers of this channel. At number 8, we have Rise of Empires Ottoman, a medieval TV show which shows in great detail the siege and fall of Constantinople by Mehmed the Conqueror, and this series does a great job of highlighting the military tactics and strategies needed to successfully maintain a siege against a well-fortified city. And if you enjoy the more military and warlike elements of historical TV shows, then Rise of Empires Ottoman is a great recommendation for you. At number 7 is Pillars of the Earth, depicts a complex and complicated story spread across multiple plot threads. One about a builder trying to create England's most extravagant cathedral, a bishop trying to manipulate more personal power for himself, and a sadistic nobleman who cares little for his duty to his lands or his people. So if you're looking for a slower paced medieval story which takes the time to carefully develop its characters and the plot, then The Pillars of the Earth is my recommendation for you. At number 6, it is El Cid, a medieval TV series based on the life of the Castilian warlord Rodrigo Diaz de Vivar. And this series carefully details the complex court politics and constant backstabbing present in the Castilian royal court. And Jamie Lorne does a fantastic job of playing the primary character of the show Rui, really bringing the complex character to life. But aside from Jamie Lorne's acting, most of the secondary cast do have pretty wooden acting and deliver their times devoid of any appropriate expression or emotion. But if you're looking for a medieval TV show which has political maneuvering, court politics, big action sequences, and great hand-to-hand combat, then El Cid is my recommendation for you. At number 5, we have Six Flying Dragons, a Korean historical drama based around the rise of Yi Bang-won, who would later go on to become King Taejong of Joseon, one of the most powerful rulers in Korean history. And this show focuses on the turbulent final years of the Goryeo dynasty and the struggles, betrayals, and alliances that shaped the foundation of a new kingdom. This series has an incredible storyline, rich character development, political intrigue, and some brilliant battle sequences as well. Six Flying Dragons does an excellent job of showing the complexities of political power and ambition during medieval Korean history, and it is a must-watch for any fan of epic historical dramas. At number 4 is The Hollow Crown, a medieval TV series which adapts Shakespeare's plays into 2 amazing mini-series, the first covering the lives of Richard II and Henry V, and the second part of the series focusing on the War of the Roses period of history. And this series has one of the most star-studded casts I've ever seen in a historical TV show ever, with the series starring Ben Whishaw, Tom Hiddleston, Benedict Cumberbatch, and Patrick Stewart, just to name a few. The Hollow Crown's strongest point is also its weakest in some regards, as the series is completely faithful to Shakespearean language, meaning the entire show is in Old English, which some viewers like myself will love, but others may not enjoy as much. So if you're looking for a beautifully crafted, brilliantly acted medieval TV show, then The Hollow Crown is my recommendation for you. At number 3, it is Shogun, which depicts the adventure of 3 primary characters in feudal Japan. A white English sailor named John Blackthorne, Lord Toranaga, a powerful daimyo, and Lady Mariko, a multi-talented woman. And the primary cast here is just brilliant, and it is one of the best ensemble casts I have seen in a historical TV show. And I can honestly say, if you haven't seen Shogun yet, you are truly missing out on a masterpiece. At number 2, it is Vikings, a TV series which follows the rise of Ragnar Lothbrok from a lowly farmer to a king and an eventual legendary figure in Viking history. And if you can mentally convince yourself that Vikings finished after season 4, then it puts forth a very strong argument that this might be the best TV show ever created. And the first few seasons of Vikings, which saw the exploration of new lands and kingdoms, the start of religious tensions between Christians and pagans, and the development of Ragnar from a farmer to a troubled and conflicted king, are some of the best plot elements I have ever seen in a historical drama. So, if you're a fan of medieval TV shows and Viking history and you haven't seen Vikings yet, I don't even know how that is possible. And the top spot on this list goes to The Last Kingdom, which follows a central character named Uhtred, a born Saxon but raised Dane, making him a useful tool to be used by leaders and kings for both cultures for their own political and personal ambitions. This series has a range of amazing secondary and primary characters, a fantastic plot with minimal filler, and a tight-knit story, and some amazing military tactics and battle scenes as well. And The Last Kingdom is a show that is able to continually keep getting better and better with each new season, and I truly feel like it is one of the best historical TV shows, if not one of the best TV shows ever created. So if you haven't seen The Last Kingdom yet, I highly recommend you check it out on Netflix right now. So let me know in the comments down below if there are any other great medieval TV shows that I may have missed out on. And as always, if you want to stay up to date with everything to do with historical movies and historical TV shows, then subscribe to my channel History Spark, and thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. Bye.